All right, welcome back, everybody. So this is going to be super awesome. I'm super stoked to have Ty Crowder on from Total Finishing Solution, and he has put together a video PowerPoint series, and we're going to go through everything from ovens to reciprocating sprayers to air assisted airless, and sort of the history of HVLP and just pretty much anything has to do with spraying or finishing. It's going to be awesome. So a little bit of background. So Ty and I actually kind of stumbled on him through Instagram, but we ended up having a friend that knew each other, which is Greg Saunders. And then we ended up running into each other at the AWFS. And then we also realized that we had Scott, known as the Wood Craftsman, which he's on YouTube and Instagram, that we knew each other. So it was kind of really interesting how all those things kind of coincided. So welcome aboard, Ty. I'm so glad to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So just tell us kind of your background, how you got into the stuff that you do.
Well, my dad was a painting contractor. I grew up around Lake Tahoe, Reno area, and started working for him when I was 10 years old. Finished my first set of cabinets at the age of about 11, and I was hooked on making wood beautiful from then on. At 15, I went to work for a paint store, started selling paint, learning how to tint colors, match stains. Went back to work for my dad for a few years through my early 20s, and then moved to Oregon and started doing outside sales of paint and industrial coating, sold Chemcraft, Rudd, a few other lines. And then through chasing a couple of big customers up there, got involved with equipment because I was trying to find an equipment solution for polyester for a very large RV manufacturer. Kind of skipped to the end of that story, and next thing you know, I'm working for the guy selling equipment. So I've been in equipment since about 2004 or 5.
Nice. And you do some like really impressive installs and things around the country. So I just want to point out that as we're going through this, that we've talked, off camera, and that you're available to put things together for anybody in any state. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And oh yeah, by the way, I want to mention that he does have a YouTube channel, and you need to go check that out too. And he's on Instagram. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries. Italy was pretty amazing. I've been over there a few times, and it's just always interesting to see the way that they finish the equipment that they use and the coatings. They don't use any of the same kind of coatings and technology that we typically see over here. There's no precats, there's no conversion varnish. They use either 2K urethane or water base, typically catalyzed water base. Very interesting, high tech. You learn a lot from those guys for sure.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to, I was down your way a month or so ago hanging out with Marco at MK Sales, and they had two guys from Renner down there. And it was awesome to be around them because unlike a lot of people that I've run into in the industry down here in the States, like they just have a different like passion for it. Like they're super passionate about what they do. And they're, I don't know, I guess that's a good word for it. They're just really, really into what they do. And so it's super fun to hang out with them because they're like, hey, let me show you this. Let me show you that. And yeah, I just had a blast on that. It was awesome. Was that sort of a similar situation for you?
Very much so. I was going to say it was kind of like hanging out with you if you were Italian. Go to this customer,
Yeah.
It was really interesting that we basically were able to walk right in the back door of these huge plants that did finishing, and they knew everybody knows everybody. They're like, oh, hey, welcome, come on in. Like, I'm just blown away looking at these finishing lines doing high gloss 2K urethane on furniture over there that we would kill for over here. It was pretty intense. You'll see some of this in the presentation as well.
Yeah, one thing too that I want to point out with them is they're very exact with things too. I don't know if they did it like when they're setting up like a reciprocating line, but one thing I learned from them was that they measure everything in I think it was it grams.
Right.
So they'll take a door off the line and weigh it to make sure it has the right, what we call mill thickness, but they measure it in grams.
They do the exact same thing on most all flat lines. You can take
Yeah.
a metal panel, actually, because you don't have any moisture absorption in it, and they'll weigh it before and after, and that's how they'll set the calibration for film thickness on most reciprocators. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over into the presentation that he has for us, and then he's going to talk about his company, and then we're going to stop at these different points in the video and let him talk a little bit more, and then I'll ask questions as need be. So if you're listening to this in your car, you might want to at some point go and check it out to see a lot of the cool stuff that he's got. So let's switch over and take a look at that. And I hope you guys really enjoy this. And then at the end, we'll be back on to kind of close it up.
Sounds good. Should be working.
All right. All right, Ty. So let's go ahead and get it started, and you can kind of tell us what you do.
All right. So my company basically does any kind of finishing equipment that you can imagine, whether it's for the wood industry, the powder coat industry, metal industry, anything to do with applying paint to any kind of substrate. So there's a lot packed into this video. If at any point you say, hey, stop, let's talk about something, let's just let me know, and I can do that, because I put a lot in here. Can you see my cursor, my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, that way I can point at stuff as well.
Okay.
So this first section just kind of gives you, it's right on my website actually, gives you a little information about us. These are all past applications and little blurbs of things that we've actually done and installed.
Cool.
That's actually, if you recognize that piece right there, that's a Apple Store table, and that's a robot that's got a UV lamp that was curing the water-based UV on a three-dimensional object. It was kind of a fun application.
Nice. All right, so go ahead and stop here. Let's talk about the reciprocating sprayers.
Okay, that's actually, I have a whole section on that coming up right after this, kind of the steps.
Okay.
We do a lot of automation, robotic applications. These power carts, which we'll get into a little bit more later on as well. This is actually an exterior siding line. They do a lot of pre-finished siding, especially in more northern climates, and then we actually cure it and they package it right as it leaves the factory. So here's the section where we get into reciprocators, like you were just talking about. So this particular system is a paper belt system from VD Finishing Systems, who are the guys I just went to Italy to go see. What I love about their technology, they've got a patent called Dynamic. And if you notice, I'll try to pause right here. These guns, if you notice, are actually traveling with the direction of the conveyor. And then every time it hits the end of the stroke, you'll see the guns kind of jump back almost like an old typewriter. No one else does that. So what that does is it gives you a completely even fan pattern across that part, no W stripe like a typical recip, which means you now get a fatter edge on the sides. And if you had like a shaker style door, you actually get improved edge coverage, better halo. We're also doing some things in this video, like we're spraying only on the pull, not the push. So that slows down everything. I'm going to pause for a second. Actually, let me back up just a little bit on that. So if you see like how it's spraying just on the pull, that slows down your particle velocity and you get a higher transfer efficiency. And because of that dynamic technology, we're actually seeing a typical paint savings of about 20% as compared to anybody else's typical reciprocator on the market. The paper belt allows you to change coatings and not recover. So for your smaller shops or people that have non-recoverable paint, it's a really good option rather than having solvent belts that you have to constantly manage and spend tons of time on for color changes and product changes and things like that. I actually have a lot of small to medium shops that get into these kind of systems, and they're able to spray water-based, solvent-based, 2K, 1K, all on the same reciprocator. And we can do color changes pretty simply in usually about a minute to a minute and a half with these kind of systems. So it's not the big, complicated, time-spending thing that a lot of people are afraid of when they see something like this.
Okay, yeah. So while you brought that up, at what point would you say that shop is big enough to, or has enough output that you would invest in a reciprocating type sprayer?
It's a lot smaller shop than most people think. I mean, every shop's going to have to make that determination for themselves. But here's what I would give you the math on. One of these reciprocators can do about 2,000 square feet per hour of production. And the cost on one of these, if you do like a 5-year lease, is about the same cost as a $16 to $18 an hour employee. And I know a lot of guys would not think twice about, I'm busy, I got to hire a guy for 16, 18 bucks an hour in my finishing shop. That's pretty comparable. The only difference is this employee that you're paying for has the capability to put out 6 spray booths. If you have like open face spray booths with 1 or 2 operators each in, this typically can match the output of 6 spray booths. So, you know, I've got a lot of smaller shops that have invested in these, and they're only 3, 4, 5-man shops, but they don't have to have the labor pool of 12, 14, 18 employees because they're able to do it with automation.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And so one of the couple of questions I have about these machines is you were talking about, you know, some of them are recoverable and non-recoverable. What would you be looking at, and why would you want one over the other?
You'd want a recovery system if you were spraying a product over and over every day. Like say you were spraying a water-based clear or a UV coating, and you wanted to take the overspray that actually physically lands on the belt, it recovers it, reconstitutes it, and you can spray your waste basically back onto your product. So you get more yield out of what you're buying. Paper belt is more for short color runs. You want to spray multiple products like stain, sealer, top coat. You're using conversion varnish or catalyzed products that really, after a pot life and they're out there, they're not really recoverable. So most shops, I would say, in the small to medium category fall into this category where a paper belt line makes a lot more sense. But if you're a big producer, you know, you're IKEA furniture or something, you're running clear all day long, recovery belt makes a lot of sense because you want to recover and use every last bit of product that you can and put it back out on your product.
Right. Good. Thanks for that. So also, while you're talking about it, when you're talking about that, you know, $16 to $18 an hour guy, I know a lot of people may be concerned about maintenance or maintaining the system. What does that generally look like for a small shop?
If you can keep your current air-assisted airless pump and gun clean and in working order, you can keep one of these in clean working order. Essentially, that's the hardest part of it. You've got 4 guns and typically a pump. You can have more pumps per color, but the paper itself is pretty much, as you can see here, self-cleaning. End of the day, you're going to take your tips and caps off, put them in solvent and clean up. You're changing the filters just like a booth. There's 1 Zerk fitting that you're going to grease once a week. That's about all there is to the maintenance on these kind of reciprocators in the daily or weekly type category.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, that's great. I don't have any other questions. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think that you get the gist of it. I see a lot of our base that we see that you and I share on Instagram that I think could move into these kinds of technologies more so than they think they can. This is actually a video that I just took over in Italy. This is what they call the Cobra. It's a CNC type spray machine. So instead of reciprocating back and forth, the parts come in, they're scanned, and it'll spray all the way around every edge like a CNC machine. So if you have a very stringent quality where you're trying to get a high edge build, this is the type of machine for you here. And In this case, they're spraying a high gloss 2K urethane, and they're getting just perfect results with this technology. I was pretty blown away with this when I was over there.
Nice. And the question I have, because some of these guys that we're talking about that really could move into a system like this, they do doors and things too. Well, can you put interior doors and things through these flatline machines?
Oh, absolutely. Pretty much anything with about a 4.5 inch height restriction is about as high as you can go. But anything that'll fit on a 52-inch wide belt, you can put down it.
Okay.
What I found was really cool about this system, I don't know if you saw that old guy that was loading this.
Yeah.
He's 70 years old. He single-handedly runs this entire finishing line by himself. There's no helpers in the shop for him. He was one of the happiest guys I've ever met in finishing. He comes in, he loads that, it goes in that stacker oven, it comes out, and he goes over and self-unloads it. And it's got all the time in the world on this line to do that. It's a pretty cool system.
Nice. All right. So while we're I see the spray booths coming up. Let's stop here and let's talk about spray booths.
Okay. What do you want to know about spray booths?
All right. So let's just talk. Let's just talk about a couple of different ones that you see a lot of, and why maybe you would want a closed one that had doors on it or open face booth, and then maybe talk about like a small shop that's wanting to get started up in a open face small booth. What are the steps that you would take with your company to work out, even if they're not in California where you're at, or they're in some other state?
Well, I think every shop when they first start probably looks at a small open face type booth, something like this, because of cost, right? It's also pretty easy because you can wheel racks in and out of a booth like this. Anytime you can enclose a booth, of course, you're filtering the air coming in that you're sucking out. You're going to get a cleaner, better paint job. You can also look at instead of cross flow motion of the air, you can look at a downdraft or side downdraft type booth, which you'll see that shot here with the dumpster. So this booth, the air comes down and goes left or right and up. So you're dragging your overspray down to the ground rather than across the part. So you're controlling the direction of the overspray. Anytime you can do that, you get a cleaner, less orange peel, less dry spray across your own part.
Right. That's more like what you see in the automotive industry is like it's sucking air in and down and back around, right?
Correct. Now, there's some things, especially for wood guys, to know. This happens, I see this all the time on my side of things. People go on the internet and they shop for spray booths, and the automotive spray booth suppliers out there have really low prices advertised online. Well, the issue is they're selling it for a car or a bus or a truck that's supposed to go in this booth, and it displaces a large volume of air in the booth. By code, you're supposed to have 100 lineal feet per minute of air movement in that booth. And so that means with full filters and an empty booth, you need to be able to move 100 feet of air a minute through that booth. Some of these online guys, they say, well, you got to have a car in there. So empty, it's only moving 30 or 50 feet of air a minute. And then these wood guys who don't have big products can't fill the booth up and displace the air, and you don't actually meet the code. So something in the wood industry to kind of have your mind on is just because it's a good price, it doesn't mean it's actually compliant for your industry.
Right. And do these, I've seen a lot of guys talking in chat rooms and stuff. Are codes I'm obviously assuming that they're somewhat different in different states, or is that a pretty standard code?
There's some national standards that all spray booths have to be built to, and then each state has nuances from there, but really everything meets a certain national code. I'll give you a couple for instances. Texas has a weird rule that the stack has to be 1.5 times the roof height. Everywhere else in the country is pretty much just has to be 6 feet above the roof. Florida, as you can imagine, requires tie-down straps on their ductwork. So that's a nuance. You get out in California and some of the counties here where districts will require seismic calculations and engineering, which makes a lot of sense. There's earthquakes. So there are some nuances in each state, but overall the construction type of a booth, all those codes are uniform.
Okay. Well, that's the main thing that I kind of wanted to bring out, that, if someone calls you, you know what's going on in all these states and can get them set up. So that's kind of mainly what I wanted to go with that information. And so what I would also kind of point out too is that, and I feel like I hear you saying that you're really better off to talk to somebody like yourself, to get everything set up to make this process a lot easier, because I'm assuming that, you're a full stop shop, so you're gonna, make sure that it's installed right and meet all the codes, and it takes a lot of stress off the person that's buying it, right?
Yep, we can help you with permitting anywhere in the country. We have a team of installation contractors. We use a few different ones all the way across the country, and even in Canada and Mexico. So we can really do any level of customer anywhere in North America.
Okay. So one other question to get back to that, and then we're going to get into the oven portion of it here. So what I hear you saying too is, like, you feel like if you can swing the cost that a booth with doors on it is going to be a little bit better than an open face booth, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Well, let's go into the oven section here.
Okay. So we do all kinds of ovens. This one right there, that was a little infrared oven that we're going to talk a bit about. These are tunnels. This is my favorite right here for the wood industry. This is an infrared batch oven. You're looking at the inside view, and everybody kind of recognizes these types of racks. This oven has 3 types of heat into it. This little video gives you an idea about it. So I'm going to stop it real quick here. This oven is 100% electric. There's no gas used whatsoever. There's actually a bulb up here in the ceiling that's pounding energy and heat into a heat sink, and we're blowing air across that heat sink, and we're circulating hot air, so that's our convection heat. In this instance, we've got hot air set at 110 degrees, and looks like it's just got 9 seconds left in this video of hot air. So we're going to first flash the coating and get the solvent or the water out of it. Then after we've flashed, we're going to go to medium wave. You'll see the lights kick on. We actually have infrared sensors that are reading with like a laser the actual part temperature, and you can see what it is in actuality. The medium wave actually will heat the coating from the inside out, whereas convection heats from the outside in, and the whole object has to get hot. The medium wave will drive the solvent or the water from the bottom surface of the coating up through the coating and out. Once we've got all the solvent or water out, we'll activate the short wave, which you're seeing here in this video, and that's like dropping the hammer on it, and we'll close it off. Most water-based wood coatings we're able to fully cure, and when I say cure, that means you can stack them face to face, put 150, 200 pounds of weight on it for an hour, and feel no blocking or see any visible signs of blocking. We can cure most water-based coatings in 5 to 8 minutes, and we can cure most typical wood solvent-based finishes in 10 to 15 minutes. 2K urethanes that are taking 24 hours, I have a customer that we've got them down to 24 minutes in with the Sherwin-Williams 2K urethane, so kind of a run-of-the-mill urethane. We're able to maintain a very accurate temperature, plus or minus 3 degrees through the whole curing process. So that's very, very important. And then we can take these same kind of ovens and we can put them on to any kind of application. We can make that instead of a batch tunnel like you just saw, we can put it in a conveyor, we can put it in a tunnel like on a hang line. There's a lot of different ways we can convert this technology. And we also do convection ovens and things like that.
Nice.
Back up and you can ask questions.
Yeah. So, getting into something like this, is this applicable for, smaller shops as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably most shops out there could use this, because who doesn't get a job that you need to get a rush part through or a shipment out today, or you need to be able to sand this in 5 minutes, right? Like this is ready to go. And I think of it like a microwave for your finishing shop. You develop a recipe for every kind of coating, stain, sealer, top coat. You go over to the controller, you enter that formula, and it's going to basically run that program and cure your coating. It can work for water or solvent or stain, anything you've got out there, it will work on.
Nice. And so what, I know that you did talk to me that you do have a customer that does some tabletops for Starbucks, and he's using the Sayerlac with the sneaker in it. And
Yes.
just for reference, why don't you explain to people kind of like maybe a little bit of his setup and how fast he's able to, churn out these parts?
Yeah, he's actually got this exact oven like you've got here, only it's got doors on it. He puts them in racks like you saw, earlier in this video. Let me see if I can back up to that. Just like this. He puts them in there. I think it's a total of an 8-minute cycle, counting the flash time. And once it's coming out of the oven and it cools to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, they can put bubble wrap on it and ship it. Or if it's the sanding sealer coat, they can get it right on it aggressively and sand. I have a commercial tabletop customer here in California that we just did for a polyester application, and he's spraying a 2K Malaysia polyester, and we are able to fully sand and take that down for the future coats. I think it was about 8 minutes. He previously was having to go 24 hours for all the shrink back to occur before he could put his next coats on, because you got to get that full fill with polyester.
Right.
Shrinks back, you're missing it. So we were able to drastically accelerate that. In fact, he just got his oven installed and he's loving it. He's actually got a flat line coming from Italy right now. It was one of the reasons I was over there.
All right, so let's talk about let's just say because I run into guys and talk to guys, they're doing 3 or 4 kitchens a week, and they're wanting to increase the production, and the only way to do it is by adding more people. I think this is an ideal solution for them. This is like perfect. So let's just take that like concept. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but let's say that they're doing 3 to 4 kitchens a week. What if they invest in this type of system? Let's just say they just invest in the oven. They don't do the flat line yet. What would they be looking at improvement wise? Like, I mean, just a rough number, kind of off the top of your head, maybe.
Yeah. Our basic batch, like what you're looking at here in this photo, that's 12 foot long, 8 wide, 8 high, is probably about $48,000 to $52,000, depending on voltage. And then you're going to have installation on top of that, which is probably, depending on where you are in the country, $8,000 to $10,000. So budget around 60 grand. You can have an oven that's going to cure your parts in 5 to 10 minutes for full cure.
All right. So, I mean, essentially, it sounds like to me, if you're doing, 2 kitchens a week, you could practically do all those in one day, at least your door section of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. So that's just something for some of you guys out there that are running higher production stuff, to kind of chew on and think about, if you want to, take it to the next level.
Yep. Just definitely taking a shop to the next level.
Yeah. All right. You want to go ahead and get to the next section, or do you have anything else to add in this one?
Get to the next.
Actually, I tell you what, I do have one other question. And you kind of touched on it, but I'm obviously been a big proponent. Sorry if I can speak right. Of the water-based stuff. We're looking at a significant difference in time as far as I'm concerned. What's your average? You're saying your average solvent finish is around 15 to 20 minutes, and you're at 5 to 8 minutes with the water-based stuff. So I think that's something to really take into consideration too, system-wise. And I know that your licensing and all of the your hazardous waste and all that stuff's to be significantly less with the water base, especially in California, and you don't have all the hassles that a lot of shops that I know out there have that get inspected every year.
Yeah, the other thing to think about on this is it's all electric. There's no gas. So that makes permitting on these super simple. There's a simple 6-inch exhaust that goes out. Other than that, it's full electric. The other thing to consider, there's no warm-up time. It's only on when there's a part present, and it's instant heat. So unlike a gas convection oven that has to be on for a half hour before you put your parts in, it's running all day through lunch and all of that to maintain temperature. You're burning gas all day. This isn't. It's only on when you've got a part or a rack in there, and it's on for just those minutes that you're using it. We did a study on this for a customer, and a convection gas oven with his gas usage was about $12.50 an hour to run. And we had figured worst case scenario with this on 100% of the time was $2.50 an hour to run. But, you know, you figure in real life, you're only going to be running it maybe 50%, 60% of that time. So it was a fraction of what gas costs.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. So what would you say, again, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. What would you say the man cost per hour, are these, can you lease these or do you have to straight out buy these machines?
No, you can lease these too.
Okay.
You know, when you talk about equipment leasing, it's just about exactly like a loan, if you would think of it in that way. You end up owning the equipment for $1 at the end. Leasing can have some better tax advantages than an amortized loan, but business lease for equipment, you know, usually a pretty decent thing to do. There's information about leasing if you need information as well.
Okay, great. All right, let's go on to the next section.
Okay. I think it'll get there in 1 second. All right, the next section was 2K spray equipment and mixing. So this actually is a really fun one right here. I paused it. This is the Wagner twin control. So you have a resin pump, a flush pump, and a catalyst pump. They have these available that are set up for acid catalysts in the wood industry as well. What's really nice is it's only got 3 buttons: spray, flush, and stop. So pretty nice. We're looking our first little hit there on the Wagner guns. You can see Scott there from Wood Craftsman spraying the GM 4700, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. There's the same gun, but on an automatic.
Oh yeah, I was trying to figure out what was on that gun. It almost looked like it was like a finger or something on it.
Oh, that's actually you can also see it on this. It's the same robot. We have a spike that comes out, and we use it to rotate and turn the doors on these carts. Is what you probably thought.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So talk a little bit. I know you're going to talk about it, but this is these things are fascinating to me. The first time I saw a robot sprayer was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Taylor Guitars had released a video on they had a robot sprayer that was all enclosed and kind of follow the contour of the guitar, and they were using a UV coating on their acoustic guitars, and I was like, man, that's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about this. I don't know anything about the robot stuff. This is brand new to me, so this is really cool.
Robots have come a long way. We partnered with a company out of Italy called CMA Robotics, and they have scanning technology. So we're actually working right now. This particular door you see here would be scanned just to the right as it enters the booth. The robot would see the part and create its own program and spray the part perfectly on a 2D part like a cabinet door, man door, or window. That technology didn't exist 2 years ago. This is pretty exciting, cutting edge stuff for us.
Awesome. So how have they worked in the past? Do they just work on a program? You'd have to program like how far?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was sometimes prohibitive if you weren't painting the same kind of part repetitively. A robot was potentially a pain in the butt because you had to have a robot programmer on your payroll to program for every part. And if you had more than, 50, 60 parts, that's a big problem. If every part's different, that's a problem. So this scanning technology is going to be a big game changer. And these guys at CMA actually came from the wood industry over in Europe rather than the automotive industry like most typical robot guys. So it's been a pretty
cool.
Mm-hmm.
And now most of the time when I've seen robots, I've seen them more, kind of backing up where they're doing the chair stuff. They can swing them around and they have them on the carts that spin and this and that. It's really cool.
Yep. I mean, there's probably not as many applications for the small to medium guys in the robots, but we get into some of these guys that are making furniture and doors, and it's the only way to go. Especially, there's a labor shortage out there, and this is a way to fill the gap and get a good quality paint job when you have a poor labor pool.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's something that has come up in discussion on social media a few times, and I'm glad that you're on here talking about this. And I've gone to the AWFS show, and you see a lot of these things. And, you talk to a lot of people, and you're exactly right. Like, this is what's happening in our industry is that, because of the labor shortage in pool, things are going more toward robotics. And I think, honestly, moving forward, you're going to see more and more of that even in the construction avenues as well, because I'm seeing, stuff that they're working on, drywall robots and all kinds of other stuff. So I think it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next little thing that pops up in this is something that I'm really excited about. I think this is probably the future of finishing for the small to medium shop. So this is a power cart. So this is a intrinsically safe Class 1 Div 1 rated cart that is battery operated. So
12-volt battery? Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. Has a 5-year warranty on the batteries. You never take them offline. They actually charge when they're in the oven curing the part. So
nice.
You're very versatile. You can put doors on them like you see. You can put cabinet boxes, accessories. You can make any kind of rack for it to hang stuff. There's the charge rail I was talking about inside the oven. They wire to talk to the infrared ovens that we were just showing earlier and change the recipe. So if it's the stain path, it'll tell the oven to run the stain program. If it's the sealer coat, it'll change everything in that oven and run it for sealer coat. You can actually have the top coat in each zone in the oven and have 3 different recipes be going on in the same oven. It's pretty cool. It's a touch bumper that stops the cart with 4 psi of force, so you can actually walk in front of it. That's an ABS track. You can run over it with forklifts or hand trucks or anything like that. So you don't have any conveyors, any of the structural support for conveyors. No permitting needed on this either because it's just bolted right into the concrete floor. You can actually pull it up and reroute a track if you need to over a weekend. It's really simple concept, but it's like having a power and free conveyor in your shop.
Yeah, most of these type systems I've seen, they're like built into the floor, like a metal type, like a train track.
Right, with chains and all of that.
Yeah,
What's nice about this is if you stop one cart, none of the carts down the line stop anywhere. They're all going to catch back up. So the painter has absolutely as much time as he needs with any cart at any position. There's a kick switch on either side. You can stop the cart, kick it, and it'll go on. Or if you rotate the tabletop out of the 180-degree position, it'll stop until you lock it back in to the position.
That's awesome with the ABS. I've never seen anything like that. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, when you come out to California, I think that's something I'm going to show you, and
awesome.
You're going to be really impressed with that.
All right, so that'll end part 1, and we will continue with part 2 next week.